or not, with Claudia Espinosa, the founder of Love Mentoring, a personal trainer and coach. Welcome, Claudia, to the Social Impact Conference. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Sienna again. Hi, Taya. Thank you so much for the invite. I love to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
All right. Hi, Claudia. I'm just going to pin you. I'm going to spotlight you so that everyone is able to see. We had Claudia actually at our We Speak series, and we really enjoyed having her there. So we brought her back because we wanted her to share her inspiration with all of you. So, hi, Claudia. Do you think you could briefly introduce yourself and also share a fun fact with everyone?
Yes, so again, I am Claudia Espinosa. I live here in New York City. I was born in Colombia. I moved to New York in 2000. Fun fact, I guess you mentioned it. I worked as a personal trainer for several years. I still do. I love that profession, and that's very close to my heart. So I still train just one client, but I love doing that, promoting health and wellness. So yes.
Thank you for that. I think it is very cool that you're able to stay active and be a personal trainer during this time. And so the next question is, what really led you to do the work that you're doing today?
To founding the organization Latinas on the Verge of Excellence. I'll give a little background. I have a degree in forensic psychology, and I worked for a suicide prevention program back in 2009 for an organization called Community Life here in New York. And I work as an intake counselor. And that's where I learned about the challenges affecting young Latinas in New York City related to mental health. So that program was created specifically because young Latinas have the highest suicide attempts in New York. And unfortunately, that's a reality that still is, it hasn't changed much in the past since 2009. So that's 12 years. We have made some progress, but we're still working hard to make sure that young Latinas, and there are other young women that experience those challenges clearly, but this is the population that is mostly affected in New York City. So I learned that. I wasn't familiar with that or aware of that until I worked for that program, and that's what inspired me to create the organization. At the time, I was pursuing a second master's at NYU in nonprofit management, so I was able to use that education to get the skills and the knowledge I needed to launch this nonprofit organization, this mentorship program. So that's a little bit of why it happened and how it became possible by utilizing the education that I was getting.
Thank you for that, Claudia. Just inspired by Love Mentoring, how do you channel love into your role as a mentor for the girls?
Me being personally a mentor, I can say that, or in the beginning, I was the person running the sessions, and that's how the program started. I was basically doing it, from running the organization to teaching the classes in the public schools. So at the time, I think that I was a direct mentor for the students in our programs. Today, I don't think that I have that direct mentorship interaction with the students. I think that I would say that today I can use my role modeling with the team that I work with in the organization, I guess, and with our extended team that includes interns and volunteer mentors. So I will say that I can consider myself to be a mentor perhaps by leading with my own actions, meaning that what I always say that we want to do as we preach. So we want to be a source of empowerment for young women to believe in themselves, to feel empowered, to have their own voice. So I think that I can do that by leaving that example. So I can, maybe today I can serve as a mentor that way.
Thank you, Claudia. For kind of in that same vein of like supporting young women and empowering women, what advice would you give to young underrepresented women who want to break into business?
That's a big question, right? So I think that it takes a lot of steps. So it's not one specific formula for that. But what I would say based on my own experience is, first, trust your voice. I think that is very important. Be your true self. Just speak your own truth. And I think that is, I would say, the first step. And that means many other things, right? So believe in the careers that you want to follow, right? Regardless of any other opinions, right? So for me, for instance, I can use an example. I decided when I was 19 years old that I wanted to move to another country, and maybe that was not the expectation that others had for me. So that I feel that that's a concrete example, right? So at the time I was back home, I was in Colombia, I was getting a degree in psychology back home. And there is a longer conversation in terms of what sparked the decision for me to move, but I stuck to that. I felt that I really wanted to move abroad, to expand my horizons, to do it on my own. And I stuck to my truth, right? So I got my parents to support me in that decision. Let's say my mom wasn't as open as my dad was, but then finally they got to support me, right? But I believe that happened because that's what I felt that I wanted to do. I wanted to start my own path, and that's how it happened. So I think that, and then after that, many other things came to be, right? So once I moved to New York, but I would say the foundation of all that is staying true to yourself, to who you are, and why you want to accomplish certain goals. So that, I would say, will lead you in the direction of finding the rest, the right career, the right profession, the right mentors. But it all starts with you.
I love that, Claudia, especially your note about sticking to your truth. How would you say that you've stayed true to yourself in these uncertain times we're living in?
I would say I am a fearless person, and I can say that out loud. And I think that keeps me going, right? So, and I'm just being completely transparent and honest about that. I don't create anxiety. I take control of what I can take control, right? So I can take control of my health. And for me, that means maybe something different for that it may mean for somebody else. So for me, health means exercise, eat well, but most importantly, be happy, stress-free. And to me, that equals a strong, if going to, the current reality, I believe that in order to fight against any kind of illness, aside from the current one that exists, you need to have a strong body, right? A strong self. And not only body, but mind and body is just together. And we have control over that. We can't control what's out there. We can't control the world, but we can control ourselves. And if we can take care of our health and wellness, I feel that then you build a very strong system that can fight anything. So I feel that that's how I stay true to myself. I do the right thing by me, by taking care of my health in terms of my own body and mental health. And I feel that by doing that, I can fight anything.
Thank you, Claudia. So kind of in that same vein, like you have expressed how much you love learning. So kind of what is a lesson you think that inspires you?
I'm sorry, Taya, you said that I express what?
You kind of expressed a love for learning, just overall. So I was kind of wondering, what is a lesson that you've learned in life that really inspires you?
A lesson that I learned in life, in general, in life? Well, I think that the first thing that I can think of is I believe that we have the responses to everything, and that's again what I believe in. And what I mean is we have an inner compass that is called intuition. And I think that what I've learned in life is that I may have not had those words to describe that, let's say 20 years ago, but I feel that today I can say that. And what I mean is, to give you an example, a concrete example, for instance, when you get that feeling inside that it doesn't have an explanation, but it's just, it comes out as a thought, as something that just doesn't leave your mind, for instance. And it's telling you, you should apply to Harvard, for instance. And it's just like this burning desire that it was in your heart and in your head, and it just doesn't leave you alone, right? And so that goes back to your question. So what did you learn most in life so far? You can do two things. You can ignore that. You can say, okay, that's too hard. It's gonna, a lot of people apply and people don't get in, but then your heart keeps telling you like you should apply, right? So it doesn't leave you alone with that desire, but it's on you to take the steps to make it happen, right? So that feeling, that kind of like inner voice telling you what to do, that's what I mean by inner compass. And that is the intuition that leads our lives. So that's how my life has kind of evolved all these years, with a thought that you wake up and you're like, I want to move to France and live there for a year. And you just don't know where that came from. But then you act on it, and then I got to live in France for a whole year to do a study abroad. Or this sign from life that at 19 told me, you should move abroad, right? And what you learn later in life is that at that moment, I had no idea, what my life was going to be in New York City. But then today, 21 years later, all the dots kind of get put into place, and you can connect them all, and they all make sense. And so, I don't know, you ladies may be in your 20s. That's when I moved here. I'm 41 now. And what I can say is that that's what I learned in life. And one thing that's what I enjoy the most when I speak with young ladies like you that are part of the program. We are at that time, we have so many questions. We don't know where life is going. We just want to be successful. We want to make sure that everything turns out well. And we have so many worries. And today I would just say, just trust the journey, but more importantly, trust yourself, because you have the answers. And don't ignore that inner voice, because that's your intuition, and it will take you to the right place. If you ignore it, then it will take you to the wrong place.
That was so beautiful. And your point about the inner compass really resonates with me. But one question that always comes up, like whether it's as a woman or someone who, doesn't have representation, there's kind of these social pressures like, oh, you're supposed to be doing this, but then your inner compass is telling you something different. So how do you follow your inner compass when you face those kinds of social pressures?
I feel that, whatever your heart tells you to do, the place that you're going to end up doing something that is going to not only more, I would say, to like for me, for instance, I feel blessed to be able to do work that empowers other women, right? But when I follow my inner compass, I didn't know that was going to be the outcome, right? So no one told me you should find something in your life to help the world. And I feel that you ladies, if you are in positions where you are getting a degree in any area you may be pursuing right now, whatever work that you do, if that's what you love, because I think that that's the most important part, that you follow a career that fulfills you. You can't think, you don't, for me, that is, if I think I have the flexibility and openness to say these things today here, I feel that you first need to think about you, and whatever career path you choose, the impact that you're going to have is going to be powerful because it fulfills you. If you do the opposite, you're not doing good to anyone because you're not doing good to yourself, right? So a very simplistic example is if you have external pressure telling you should become the best doctor in the world because I say so, but you say, no, I want to become the best dancer or artist on earth because that's what I want, but you don't follow that you're doing a disservice not to the world but to you. And if you do that to yourself, you're not helping anyone. So that goes back to the point about being true to yourself. If you do that, and because what you do you love so much, then anything else that you do with that is going to help and impact everyone around you because it fulfills you and it makes you happy. And so because of that, you're going to use it to make others happy and do well by others too.
Thank you, Claudia. Kind of in that vein of like being true to yourself and leaning into a career that makes you happy. Of course, that's really fulfilling unto itself. But of course, you also have to take care of yourself too. And so we were wondering, how do you define self-care and external of your career?
So I think that for me, it's all about balance. I do, and that's actually a very important question. And because of where in the context that we are, where we're speaking today, meaning that my first assumption is going to be that everyone here is extremely smart. All this, I'm going to assume that we are all young women. I don't know if there's any men here, but I'm going to assume that everyone is so driven and smart, right? And we kind of know like what we want in life, and we work very hard for it. But it's not all about that, meaning work and work and work, and if I don't work, then it's gonna feel like I'm not doing what I need to do to be successful. And I think that can be problematic in a sense that if you don't, and that's a simplistic example of if you don't have your cup full, right? Like if it's empty, it's not good. And it goes back, I feel that the whole conversation goes back to you. It's balance. And if you don't find balance, then nothing works. And to me, I say it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of school, a little bit of work, a little bit of fun. And if you don't have that, then it's not good. Because if you're gonna feel burnt out, at the end of the day, it's not gonna work for anything you do. And that's for me personally. I recently heard something very important that is stuck with me and that I've been doing. I would say unconsciously in the beginning, but more consciously later, in terms of guarding my time. And you don't need to feel overbooked. You don't need to have your schedule packed to feel like, okay, so I am working towards my dreams. It doesn't really, that I think that maybe that's also very, I don't know if it's just an American way to see it or if it's all Western way to see it, but it's just not the way I personally feel that it should be. And I feel that we are in a period now that is more conscious about self-care and mental health and wellness, and I feel that the whole world is getting to that point little by little. But what I feel that happens is that if you feel that you're taking a little bit time for you worry that you're now, again, like you're just getting distracted from your goal. And the point I want to make is that you're not. Because I want to say that less is more, and another saying that I know is less doing, more imagining. If you don't have time to just be and feel just relaxed, that's the time where you are the most creative. If you don't have that because you're overbooked or you're too tired to think and be able to have a clear mind, then you don't have time to just develop and create new thoughts. So point to that is balance. For me, that's how I live my life. I don't overbook my time. If I have 2 calls per day, that's enough. If I have 2 meetings that it takes a lot from you, right? So I'm speaking to, let's say, a borough president, and I'm speaking to the principal of a school. That's enough for today. Like, that is a lot. So if you do 3 things well on a day, like, that is enough. So manage your time. And for me, it's exercise. That's my self-care. If I don't go to the gym in 3 days, I'm not happy. And just, just making sure that you have time for yourself. That's my self-practice. And I'm very happy with that. So I leave it at that.
That's awesome, Claudia. And I do the same thing with prioritizing just 3 things a day, because I find that I'm not upset with myself if I don't complete a bazillion to-dos, because maybe I wasn't meant to do that. And focusing on those 3 things helps me to complete them at my fullest and be present for each one. So I really appreciate that you said that. Digging into that a little deeper, how would you say that self-love practices and social impact intersect?
To me, self-love is the most important love. And that's the only way that you can do social impact or a positive impact in the world. If you don't love yourself, how are you going to love anything else? So that's a very short answer. I mean, it has to start with you. If you don't care about yourself, you don't love yourself, and not in the cliche. It's not cliche. Self-love is not a cliche thing. Self-love is you love yourself from your inside and outside, and from your thoughts, and from what you believe, and from who you are, and from your everything. But until you get to that level of I love the last strand of hair in my head, you're not gonna be able to do any positive social impact to anybody, to anyone, not even to your dog. Like, it starts with you. And so that's a very, very short answer. And again, self-love is everything, and not in a cliche way. Self-love, and that's a long journey, right? So, because I think that the challenge is that it's, from the beginning, from outside, you may hear, oh, but you're not enough of this, or you don't have that, or you should be this. And then it makes you question, your worth, and am I good enough, right? And that answer to am I good enough is related to self-love. No, I'm not good enough, so I don't love myself 100% because I should be this other thing. And so, I feel that it's not an easy process to get to a place where you're 100% and, I love myself, right? It may require some journey of understanding. Like I would say today, maybe I didn't feel as confident as I was when I was 17 years old, right? Or when I was 25 and I was still figuring out my life. But today, as a 41-year-old woman, I feel like I will speak my truth, whatever it is, and I love myself exactly the way I am. And if it's okay with the world, it's okay. But if it's not, then I'm so sorry. But that's who I am, right? So it may take a long journey, but I feel that in the work that we do with the girls in our programs, I guess the whole purpose is it doesn't have to take that long, right? So what we're working on is love yourself exactly at 15. You don't need to wait until you are 50 to say I love myself, right? So I think that is the whole purpose with the work that we do with our young girls, that you don't let the external world get to you and tell you you're not enough. So yes, you are exactly the way you are. So back to your question, I guess that's a good point. That's exactly what we're working on, to create more self-love among our young women. And the only way that you can do positive impact is by starting with your own self-love. And I hope that we can change that reality that's been around for so long, in terms of making people feel like they're not good enough, because we are.
Thank you, Claudia, for that answer about kind of the effects of taking care of yourself, so that you can achieve bigger things in the world and understand your own self-worth, so you can have a bigger impact. It's a really positive and beautiful message. So kind of our last question before the Q&A is, what is your favorite quote or mantra that you would like to share with the audience?
I don't know if I have a favorite, but I think that I looked a lot for quotes, depending on if I want to share a message, for instance, and I feel like, oh, okay, let's look for discipline quotes, or let's look for health quotes, right? Something that I can resonate with. But I think that recently, something that I read or I listened to, that guard your time quote, really stuck with me. And so that's one that every time that I feel like, okay, time off, it's like, okay, I'm guarding my time, enough of work and enough of school. I'm back in school again. So yes, it's like, okay, I'll finish that paper later. First, I'm gonna go for my daily walk. So guard your time is a big quote that I am using now. I guess I mentioned another one today that I think it left my mind, but that's the first one that I can think of. And I am someone that believes that the first thing that comes to mind is the first thing that, right, at least for now, is the most relevant. So I think that I will use that one.